After that night, everything changed. We weren't strangers anymore. We were something undefined but deeply connected. Lexi and I started seeing each other almost every day, not because we planned to, but because we couldn't seem to stay apart. I'd drop by just to check on the baby, but I'd end up staying for dinner. We'd talk for hours sometimes about Grace, sometimes about life, and sometimes about nothing at all. There was comfort in our silence, a kind of quiet understanding that didn't need words. She'd laugh at my bad jokes, and I'd tease her about her obsession with organizing everything by color, even baby bottles. I had never been this calm around anyone before. It was like after years of noise, my heart finally found its volume. Grace was growing fast, and so was the bond between us. The first time she said Dada, Lexi looked shocked, then smiled through tears. I froze, not sure whether to laugh or apologize. "Don't look at me like that," I said awkwardly. "I didn't teach her that." Lexi wiped her eyes and whispered, "Maybe she just knows who's always here." That moment hit me. I had walked into a stranger's chaos and somehow found my purpose there. But love, even the purest kind, always comes with tests. One evening, as I was putting Grace to sleep, there was a knock at the door. Lexi opened it tanned, her past walked back in. Her ex, Mark, stood there, looking worn out and guilty. "Joe," I heard him say, "I just want to see my daughter." Lexi's voice was calm but firm. "You left before she was even born, Mark. You don't get to come back like nothing happened." He ignored her, his eyes landing on me. "Who's he?" he asked sharply. I stood up, meeting his glare. "Someone who was there when you weren't." The air turned heavy. For a moment I thought he'd swing at me, but instead he turned and stormed off, slamming the door. Lexi broke down. I wrapped my arms around her and said softly, "He doesn't get to take your piece again." She looked at me, tears streaming down her cheeks, and whispered, "Thank you for being here, always." That night, as Grace slept peacefully, Lexi and I sat on the couch, the TV playing softly in the background. "You know," she said, "I used to think love was this perfect thing, full of big gestures and magic. But maybe it's just this someone showing up when the world walks away." I nodded, unable to find words because she had just described exactly what I felt. We didn't kiss. We didn't need to. That quiet moment was enough to tell both of us that something real had begun. Weeks turned into months, and soon we were a small, messy, beautiful family. We'd take Grace to the park on weekends, have lazy Sunday breakfasts, and sometimes just lie on the couch, laughing at how our lives collided in a parking lot. One day while watching Grace play, Lexi turned to me and said, "You know, if you hadn't fought me over that parking space, none of this would have happened." I laughed. "Yeah, fate works in weird ways. Guess Destiny had terrible driving skills that day." She smiled. Or maybe Destiny just knew where to park us. Life felt perfect for a while, too perfect. That's the thing about perfect tit, never lasts forever. One morning, Lexi got a call. A big marketing firm from another city wanted her. It was her dream job, kind of opportunity that could change everything for her and Grace. But it also meant moving away from me. That night, we sat together in silence, both pretending we were fine. "You should take it," I said finally, though my voice cracked. "You've worked for this." She looked at me, tears threatening to fall. "And what about us?" I forced a smile. "If it's real, it won't end just because of distance." She didn't reply, just leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, "You make it sound easy." I wanted to tell her it wasn't. That my heart was breaking even as I said the words, but I stayed quiet. Sometimes love means letting go, even when it's the last thing you want to do. The day she left was one of the hardest of my life. I helped her pack the car, kissed Grace on the forehead, and watched them drive away until the taillights disappeared. For weeks I couldn't sleep. My apartment felt empty. Every place reminded me of her laugh, her voice, the way she used to roll her eyes when I burned the toast. I kept replaying our last hug in my mind, her whisper echoing in my head, "Thank you for staying when no one else did." Months passed. We talked, sometimes texts, short calls. Pictures of Grace learning to walk, but there was a distance in her voice that was on just miles. I tried to move on, but no one felt like her. No one had her mix of chaos and calm, her warmth that made the world softer. Then one night, it started raining hard, and I found myself driving aimlessly through the city. I ended up in that same parking lot where it all began. The spot was empty, glistening under the streetlights. I just sat there, staring at it, realizing how one small moment had rewritten my entire story. That's when my phone buzzed. A message from Lexi. It said, "I miss home." Just 3 words, but they hit me harder than anything else ever could. I didn't even think. I started the car and drove. The rain was pouring, the roads were blurry, but my heart had never been clearer. When I reached her building, she was already outside, standing under an umbrella, with Grace in her arms. Her hair was soaked, her eyes red, but when she saw me, she smiled the way she did that first night in the hospital, tired but full of hope. "You came," she said softly. "Always," I replied. "You texted, I drove." She laughed through her tears. "You were right. Maybe destiny really did plan this." I stepped closer, wiped the raindrops from her face, and said, "No. Destiny just gave us bad parking skills." We both laughed. And then I kissed her finally. After all those months, after all that waiting, the world seemed to stop. The rain, the noise, the pain, all of it faded into the background. There was only her and Grace between us, and this strange, beautiful feeling that we were exactly where we were supposed to be. Since that day, everything has been different. Lexi moved back, took a local job, and we built a life together. It's not perfect. Some mornings are chaos, some nights are sleepless, but it's ours. Grace is growing fast, and every time I see her smile. I remember the terrified woman I met in that parking lot and the miracle that followed. We still joke about it, how we met fighting over a spot neither of us truly owned, how fate had to crash into us to make us slow down and see what really mattered. Sometimes when we're driving somewhere and the traffic gets bad, Lexi will look at me and say, "Remember the parking lot?" I'll grin and say, "How could I forget? You screamed at me for half an hour." She roll her eyes and say, "Yeah, and then I fell in love with you. Guess I have bad taste in drivers." And in those moments, I realize that love isn't always fireworks or grand gestures. Sometimes it's messy, inconvenient, loud, and completely unplanned. Sometimes it's a stranger who refuses to walk away when the world gets hard. Sometimes it's an argument that turns into a miracle.